Hello chess friends and welcome to Jozarov chess channel and welcome to an amazing tournament that started today. Welcome to the Superbet Rapid and Blitz chess tournament in 2022 in Poland. So this tournament is really incredible. We have 10 players performing first in 9 rounds of rapid chess, and then afterwards they'll play 18 rounds of Blitz chess, which is really incredible. It's a dynamic tournament, and after the day 1 we have a great leader, which is the top grandmaster and the former world champion and the legend of the sport, Viswanathan. And the cool part is that Vishy played today 3 games and he won all of them, which is really incredible. So the Tiger is back, the Tiger still can play, and it's really incredible how he played his games. They were really dynamic, good, with great positional tactical elements. Incredible performance by Vishy. And what the cool part also was about this tournament, that Anish Giri wrote a beautiful tweet about Vishy's performance today. He wrote, I'm going to show you the tweet, he wrote that the future of Indian chess looks bright. Of course, it seems so that Viswanathan is supposed to be the future of Indian chess. Of course, it's not so, because I think chess in India is really great, and Indian players are the most talented players in chess. But when we think about it harder, it seems so that still Viswanathan is the best Indian player in the world. How he's playing today and how he'll probably play in the continuation, I'm not sure. As I said, India has still great players, but Viswanathan is simply Viswanathan. He's simply a level above them all. So it's really great how, as I said, he played today. So I've sorted out a beautiful game by Viswanathan today against Anton Korobov. It was a beautiful positional game. It shows, I think, the great positional understanding of Viswanathan, and of course Vishy had a great positional understanding through his whole career. But I think the most important element of Viswanathan's play was great tactical play. But as I said, in this game here you see now the beautiful positional Viswanathan. So let's see now the game. E4 was played by Vishy. We have E6 by Anton Korobov. We have D4, and after move D5 we have reached now the French defense. So after move E5 we have the advanced variation. After move C5 we have C3, knight to C6, and after move knight to F3 we have now the so-called Paulson attack. And here the game transposes into the so-called Juve variation of the French defense. This move bishop to d7 makes in many of this lines sense, because many times you have problems with your light square bishop, which is, we have to say it many times in the French defense or maybe in the Caro-Kann defense, a bad piece. It's many times blocked out by its own pawn structure. And you see now in the continuation the problems about this development of the light square bishop, and that's why in the Juve variation you're trying at least to make maybe some kind of a new activity by placing maybe the bishop to c6 to get some kind of activity with this piece. But as I said, you see now how Vishy in the continuation of the game will play simply a bad bishop strategy. He will not allow this bishop on d7 to breathe. So that's why, as I said in the beginning, it was a beautiful positional game by Viswanathan. So here we have bishop to e2, rook to c8, and now kingside castling. So normal development. We have h6, we have bishop to e3, controlling further the d4 square, because that's in many occasions, for instance, if black takes, c takes d4, then after c takes d4, white has a great control of the square. D4, you don't want to lose, of course, this pawn, which is holding the whole pawn chain. And now in the continuation of this tactical sequence we can expect some moves like f4, f5, maybe f6. So white is making progress on this side of the board. So after move bishop to e3 here, Anton Korobov played an aggressive move, queen to b6, attacking the b2 pawn and challenging for the square d4. And here Vishy makes a great decision, and it's even the best suggested move by top engines, d takes c5. And this is, I think, must-know theory in these types of structures, because basically you were challenged around the square b2, but actually queen takes b2 is not so good here for white. For black, it seems so that black could maybe grab a pawn. But now with normal development, you see knight from b to d2. If you play queen to c3, the problem is now you lose probably the battle here around the square b7. So it's really hard to defend everything, and now the queen is a little bit also exposed, so we can attack the queen further. So in the continuation you could try maybe to play knight from g to e7 in order to maybe to play knight to f5 to attack maybe the bishop on e3. But now with rook to b7 you see a really weird position here for black. Also the bishop on d7 is a little bit loose, so maybe there's some tactical possibilities for white. So as I said, this is sort of a gambit line, but it decoys simply the queen, and the queen becomes now an object, I think, also of white's attack. So after move d takes c5, Korobov plays bishop to c5. We have bishop to c5, and after queen to c5, normal development, knight to d2, with ideas to play further knight to b3, and then also cement the position again around the square d4, but in a little bit different way to keep the compact position around the square d4 by playing the knight on d4. So here after move knight from g to e7 was played, knight to b3, attacking the queen, queen to b6, and now bishop to d3. And this is now already, as I said in the beginning, the bad bishop strategy. For instance, if this knight comes on f5, then of course we'll take it out immediately. So e takes f5, and then you see also the d5 is a little bit weak. But even if this pawn would be protected by maybe the bishop on e6, it doesn't make sense. I still think that this is such a beautiful position for white, because this bishop is still just a part of the pawn chain. It doesn't make sense to have a bishop that's only covering your own pawn. So still this bad bishop strategy, I think, would work here for white. So this wouldn't be again a good position for black. So after move bishop to d3, here knight to a5 was played by Anton Korobov. Knight to a5, we don't mind here from white's perspective to trade off pieces, because every trade is in white's favor, because still I'm pointing out this bishop on d7 is the worst piece. So here in the continuation, after queen to a5 was played, of course we have a4. This is a beautiful positional move, which is not allowing, for instance, if you play something like, I don't know, queen to d2, then it allows here black to play bishop to b5, and finally black is getting rid of the bad piece, and maybe now in the continuation black could have some fun, because then the e5 pawn would be maybe a structural weakness. Maybe then afterwards black could attack the pawn on e5. So but finally I think black will solve now all of the positional problems and would trade off the bishops off the board, which is of course good for black, because the bad bishop was of course on d7. So after move a4, of course Viswanathan is preventing this idea, it's not allowing the trades of bishops. So kingside castling, rook to e1, supporting further the pawn on e5, which is very important, I think, now, because you want to play now much more freely with your knight. You want to play it maybe here to d4, you want to play it maybe here to h4, then maybe to push the pawn further. f4, f5, as I said, the main goal still remains this f5 pawn breakthrough. So we have queen to b7, queen to b6, attacking the pawn on b2, queen to d2 protects of course the pawn. We have now a6, and now h4, which is very, very important now to keep his to keep the attack here on this side of the board, because we have now an advanced pawn on e5. Of course we want to attack on the king side. Black has I think some kind of an advantage here. Black is trying to attack the queen side, but white is of course trying to attack further the king side. We can still even expect some moves like, I don't know, g4, even g5 is possible, because this pawn on e5 gives this a huge strategical advantage. It's of course the advantage of space on the king side. So after move h4, we have rook to c7, a5, kicking away the queen, queen to c5, and now rook to e3. Getting the rook maybe here on g3, where it could be very, very dangerous against black's king. So that's why knight to f5. And as we said, we don't mind to trade off the bishop for the knight, because after e takes f5 and knight to d4, look at this, we have now a perfect centralized piece, centralized square for our minor piece for the knight on d4, and still black is continuing the game with a bad bishop. So it didn't change, the activity of the light square bishop didn't change. So that was really a beautiful positional masterpiece here by Viswanathan. So we have queen to e7, attacking the pawn on h4, and even g3 is perfectly fine, although you are weakening a little bit your light squares, but still there's not a good way to include somehow this bishop into the game. So we have h5, we have queen to e2, g6, and now a beautiful stunning move, which is of course opening now the position e6. And whatever you do, it's not good anymore for black. White is here a dominant position, even if you take, this wasn't played in the game, but after f takes e6, of course, knight to e6, the bishop to e6, rook to e6, now we're controlling every single square I think on the board. Look at this rook is controlling the 6th rank. We can even play rook to d1 afterwards, attacking the d5 pawn. This is a weakness. The backward pawn on b7 is also a weakness. So here white is again in dominant position all over the board. So after move e6, here Korobov tried a counter-attack f4, but Vichy accepts the challenge, play simply g takes f4, we have f takes e6. Even if you try here, queen takes h4 immediately, then e takes d7, of course, loses the piece, and there are no good checks, no good perpetuals in order to maybe make a draw, so it doesn't make sense. So after move g takes f4, we have f takes e6, and now rook to g3, a beautiful move here by Vichy Anand. Whatever you do, you can now do many things. Even if you try, I don't know, queen to g7, then we can play queen to f3. You can maybe hide with your king, but now with rook to e1 again, we're occupying the most important squares. And look at this, we can play a beautiful blockade. We can play something like rook to e5, and still this bishop on d7, as I said, is a bad piece. It's still blocked out by its own pawn. So really, really incredible strategical ideas here by Viswanathan. So after move rook to g3, here Korobov tried queen to h4, but now after queen to e5 and rook to c4 in this position, Korobov resigned. He has to, of course, escape with the rook, but now the game would be over. Let's see the possible continuation. Of course, the pawn on g6 is saying we have king to f7, you can maybe escape, but now even, I don't know, knight to e6, whatever you do, I think you win the game. So you can just prolong the game by maybe sacrifice the queen. Even if you try maybe to compete here on the g file, then of course rook to g8, king to g8, and queen to g7, for instance, would be the beautiful checkmate. So what to say, incredible game by Viswanathan. As I said, he's in the lead. He has 3 wins out of his first 3 games, which is now 100% performance by the Tiger. Really incredible performance. I wish him all of the best. It would be really cool for chess if Vishy, for instance, wins this tournament. This would be an incredible tournament, but so far he's in the lead. Still many rounds have to be played, but it was a brilliant start by the Tiger. So okay, I hope that you enjoyed this game. I really enjoyed it a lot. I think we have seen beautiful elements of the French defense, beautiful strategic ideas of the bad bishop strategy, although it was a rapid time format game, but still Vishy shows that he has still great positional and tactical knowledge, great performance. We'll follow this tournament for sure. So far it was a brilliant start. So okay, if you want to see more commented chess games that we have analyzed before in some other tournaments, here's the link of our whole playlist. And if you want to see maybe the top engines battling it out in their best chess games, check out my commented chess games played by computer series. And if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos, and chess is the best, of course.